building here, you can see we have quite a bit of damage. And all the damage that you're looking at specifically was caused by the Blitz. Now, for anybody not familiar with this term, the Blitz is what we say when we're talking about the period during the Second World War, where London was under direct attack by the German Air Force. And London was bombed so severely during the war that many historical buildings are ruined beyond repair, entire neighborhoods were wiped off the map, and thousands of people were killed. So actually, in terms of the war, St. Clement Danes didn't really do too badly. I mean, yeah, it's damaged, but still standing, right? It's in one piece. So the decision was made to try to save the church rather than to knock it down. Now, as soon as the war was over, the Royal Air Force, who felt a connection with the air raids that had happened here, really got involved in the rebuilding of London, and they began a charity campaign to raise funds to save damaged buildings such as St. Clement Danes Church. And actually, this charity campaign got so much attention that people began associating the church with the Royal Air Force. So they decided it would make sense then to declare this their official site of worship. And despite the way it looks, I'd like to mention that they did raise all the money that they needed, and then they decided to only repair the inside. And they've left the outside, just as you see it here, as a lasting reminder to what happened during here in London during the Second World War. But if you had come to St. Clement Danes, say 300 years ago, then at that time this would have just been one of dozens of London churches. However, we did have one very well-known man who came to church here. His statue is around the back, so we'll take a look, and then you guys can tell me if you've ever heard of him or not. So we'll come this way. Now this devastatingly handsome, maybe not, I don't know what you're into. This is Samuel Johnson. Do any of you here know who Samuel Johnson was? I'd say on average I probably get like 4 people a week. So if you have never heard of him, you're not alone. But back in the 1700s, Johnson was a London celebrity. And what made him famous to begin with was his public speaking, his speeches, quotations. And one of his most famous quotes is about London. And some of you here might have heard this before. Johnson is the one who said, "When a man is tired of London, he is tired of life. For within London is all that life can afford," which is obviously true. So that's why here in London we love Samuel Johnson. But even if you never heard of him, and maybe you don't even like London that much, that's okay. He still will have impacted all of your lives in at least one small way, because Samuel Johnson here is the very first person to ever put together a comprehensive English dictionary. So it is partially thanks to him that I'm talking to you today. And if you would file Johnson away in the back of your mind, because I am going to talk about him again later in the tour. But for now, let's step down here and talk about this fabulous building off the left. Not famous buskets in our way though, but directly across from us there's the entrance to the Twinings tea shop. Does everybody here know what Twinings is? I'm seeing some recognition. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's brand new tea and coffee. And if you don't know what I'm calling the building gets, the further out over the road it starts to come. So you can see the furthest forward part is the balcony right at the top, and the front door is so far back you can't see it from where we're standing. Now if you look back to the 12, 13, 1400s, every building in every English medieval city was constructed like this, but much more dramatic. In fact, back then the levels of people's houses stuck out so far that by the time you got Before I do, I just want to briefly point out the house at the bottom of the courtyard here, because this is Samuel Johnson's house. Do you guys remember Samuel Johnson 15 minutes ago? Yeah, right. Now this is where he was living when he wrote the dictionaries. This is where it happened.
You'll have to Google it because you have to have an appointment to go there.
But it's free. You just have to pay for it. Now, originally it was like right now. Okay, you kind of see the flag wrapped around the white flagpole there. It's not necessarily waving. That flagpole is on top of a building called the White Tower or the Keep, and originally that was the Tower of London. So it started as a single stone tower built right here by William the Conqueror, who had conquered England back in 1066. And at that time, most people came in and out of London using the river. So his idea was to build a tower here, so as people sailed into town, the first thing they would see would be how rich and powerful he was. But as the years have gone on, the tower's been added to, expanded, they wrapped walls around it, put new buildings inside of it. In fact, surprise, surprise, Christopher Wren did some construction of the Tower of London at the end of the 1600s, and that's the last time I'm going to talk about him today. Now, as the tower has grown and changed, it's been used for a lot of different stuff. So you've got the fortress, the palace, it was the mint where all of our money was manufactured for years. Before London Zoo existed, all of the animals that were owned by the crown were kept inside the tower. In fact, Henry III had a pet polar bear back in the 1200s, and he would tie a cord around its wrist and go fishing in the Thames. So Londoners would come down to watch this polar bear swimming around in the water. It was also a prison. Notable prisoners kept here: Sir Walter Raleigh, Sir Francis Drake, Sir Thomas More, Henry VIII's second wife, Anne Boleyn, his fifth wife, Catherine Howard, his youngest daughter, Elizabeth I. When she was a princess, her sister Mary had her locked away here inside the tower. Lovely lady. And most of the prisoners kept in the tower were actually kept in the rooms that we are facing, and then kind of coming down to the corner here. For a reason that will become obvious in a moment, but first I have to dispel a myth about the Tower of London. It's that for a lot of people, when I say the words Tower of London, what comes to mind is torture, beheadings, executions, blood everywhere. But as popular as that idea is, it's not necessarily true. In fact, from the construction of the first tower in the year 1071 to the turn of the 20th century, 12 people were executed inside the Tower of London. That's 12 people in 800 years. I know this is a very strange thing to say, but that's not that many beheadings. Whereas a lot of people were beheaded at a place called Tower Hill. This is the tower, this is the hill. Right at the top, you can see there's some trees across the way. There's a garden there, and in that garden is a plaque that marks the spot where for centuries the scaffold used to stand. So prisoners were kept here, but they were executed over there because executions were a public event. This is how the king or queen is sort of flexing their muscles and saying, if you break my law, this is where you'll go. And it was considered totally normal to pack a lunch, bring your kids, and come on down to Tower Hill to watch the executions, because then it was thought that you're raising your family to be law-abiding citizens. And this is why almost all of the prisoners had their rooms on this side of the tower, because they would have one window, and the view out their window would be the scaffold on top of the hill. Now, as for the lucky 12 people that were beheaded behind the walls, this would only happen for two reasons. Either they had royal blood, and royal blood entitles you to a private execution. That's nice. Or two, their crime was considered embarrassing to the royal family. Like when Henry VIII's fifth wife was suspected of having an affair, Henry was very happy to quickly and quietly chop her head off behind the walls of the tower, so the public wouldn't hear that his wife had cheated on him. Now, if you visit the tower today, you can see the spots where Henry's wives were executed and the church where they laid their bodies to rest. You can see the old prison cells, and in some cases you can actually see the carvings the prisoners made on the walls in the alley where they died. Suits of armor belonging to people like Henry VIII, a huge collection of swords, spears, guns, gunpowder. This is also where we keep the crown jewels of the United Kingdom, which, by the way, are real. I'm adding this because I get asked this a lot. Yes, the jewels are real. In fact, the collection holds the two largest top-quality diamonds in the entire world, and you also might get to meet with the beef eaters. Now, if you don't know what a beef eater is, I've got a photograph for you here. Their actual job title is not beef eater. It's called yeoman wardens, and the yeoman wardens were the soldiers that for centuries worked the closest with the royal family, kind of like bombers. And back in 1400, Henry VII decided for security that he was going to gather up all of his personal treasures and possessions and move them into a single location, and the location that he chose was the tower. And then to look after all of his personal treasures and possessions, he asked his most trusted yeoman wardens to also move into the tower, and they had the full-time job of just looking after all of his stuff. But at that time, Henry spent a lot of his time at the tower too, and whenever he had leftover food from his feasts or his banquets, he would have it sent down to the yeoman wardens, and oftentimes that food included beef, which to us today, you know, so what? But in the 1500s, beef was really expensive, and most people only got to eat it a couple times a month if they were lucky. So the fact that these guys are getting sent meet pretty much every single day, quickly spread throughout town, and quite soon after that, people stopped calling them the Yeoman Wardens, and they started calling them the Beef Eaters, a nickname that has now lasted for over the last 500 years. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that will bring us to the end of our city tour. And before I say goodbye to you, I just want to give you your bearings here. If you want to take the tube, follow this path around the tower. It'll take you under the road, and that's how you get to Tower Hill Underground Station. If you feel like you'd rather take a bus ride, just walk straight behind yourself through the building. You'll come to a pub called the Hung, Drawn, and Quartered, and just past that pub is the stop for number 15, Bassett 15. And that's the best you want. That'll kind of retrace our steps. It'll take you past St. Paul's Cathedral, the Old Cheshire Cheese, the south side of Covent Garden. And if you want, it'll take you as far west as Trafalgar Square. But if you need directions anywhere else, please just let me know. If you have any questions, of course, you can ask. And for anybody with Yelp, Google+, TripAdvisor, whatever, I always appreciate positive feedback. I meet more people, I get more tours, and I prove to my friends and family that I do actually have a real job. So thank you for sitting here Saturday afternoon with me. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.